You know, have you ever wondered why younger women smile at you, but then you immediately think, she's just being polite? Let me tell you something. That's not politeness. That's a signal that 99% of older men completely miss. And when you miss it, you're not just losing an opportunity. You're confirming to yourself that you lack the confidence to recognize your own value. Listen, when a younger woman smiles at you, it's rarely just friendliness. There's something deeper happening. A biological response, a psychological test, a recognition that younger men simply cannot provide for her. But if you don't understand why she's smiling, if you don't know how to respond, that opportunity vanishes. Forever. In this video, I'm going to reveal 8 psychological reasons why younger women smile at older men. And more importantly, what you should do when it happens. If you're ready to stop letting opportunities slip past you, watch until the end. Because this isn't just about attraction. This is about whether you're willing to recognize that you're worthy of it. Let me tell you what's actually happening in that moment when she smiles. Most men completely miss it because they're too busy questioning themselves. Here's the uncomfortable truth that becomes liberating once you accept it. You walk into a room differently than younger men do. You don't announce yourself. You don't seek permission. You simply occupy space with a groundedness that comes from living through enough experiences to know who you are. Now, most young men today, they're apologizing for existing. They've been raised in an era where masculinity itself became something to question, something to soften, something to hide. They've been told that being direct is aggressive, that taking up space is problematic, that confidence is somehow toxic. So they move through the world with tentative energy, constantly checking if they're allowed to be confident, allowed to be direct, allowed to simply be themselves. But when she encounters you, her nervous system recognizes something it's been starving for. Not aggression, not dominance, just presence. Just that calm, grounded energy that says, I'm comfortable being exactly who I am. That smile, it's not about your age, it's about your energy. You're not competing with younger men on their terms. You're playing an entirely different game they don't even know exists. As Marcus Aurelius understood, very little is needed to make a happy life. It's all within yourself. Your value isn't in proving yourself, it's in knowing yourself. But here's where most men fail spectacularly. Not because they're unattractive, but because they don't even realize they're being tested. When she smiles at you, it's information gathering. She's putting something into the world to see what comes back. If you immediately look away, if you dismiss it as just friendly, if you convince yourself she couldn't possibly be interested, you've just answered her question. She now knows you don't see yourself as someone worthy of her interest. You've disqualified yourself before anything even started. But if you hold her gaze for just a moment, if you smile back with calm confidence, everything shifts. Now she knows you're aware. Now she knows you're not intimidated. Now she knows there might be something interesting here worth exploring. The test isn't whether you're attractive. The test is whether you know you are. Big difference. Look, I'm not telling you to be arrogant. I'm telling you to stop being so humble that you miss what's right in front of you. Now here's the part nobody wants to say out loud, but understanding this changes everything. Women are attracted to status, stability, and capability. This isn't shallow materialism. We've been taught to pretend these evolutionary drives don't exist anymore because modern women can provide for themselves. So men dismiss their own natural advantages, thinking these things don't matter. But the attraction responses are still there. Hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary wiring doesn't disappear because we decided it's not politically correct to acknowledge it. You, simply by being older, automatically signal competence, resources, and stability that younger men can't replicate. Your gray hair isn't a flaw. It's evidence you've survived. Your established career isn't boring. It's proof you can build. Your calm demeanor isn't weakness. It's mastery. Everyone's telling you to compete with 25-year-olds at the gym. I'm telling you, the game isn't about physical appearance alone. It's about presence. And you've already won if you just accept it. But here's where it gets deeper and more powerful. Because she's not just attracted to what you have. She's drawn to what you've become. She's exhausted, and you don't even realize you're exactly what she's been looking for. Modern relationships for younger women can be incredibly challenging. Endless conversations with men who can't communicate, won't commit, and treat connections like games they can pause whenever it gets difficult. Then she encounters you, someone who seems stable, grounded, like you've actually grown up. There's a part of her that just wants to exhale. That smile is partly relief. But she doesn't know if you're still confident enough to engage with her. She doesn't know if you've retired from this part of life. So she's testing whether you still see yourself as someone worthy of her interest. Here's what she's thinking but would never say out loud. Please don't be another project I have to fix. Please don't need me to complete you. Please just be whole. You're not a project. You don't need her to raise you or fix you or complete you. You've done the work, or at least you're willing to. And that emotional maturity, in her world, it's like finding water in a desert. But here's the fascinating paradox. She's not attracted despite your scars. She's attracted because of them. You've lived. You've failed. You've gotten back up. You have stories that actually mean something. Younger men can talk about trending topics, viral moments, surface-level entertainment. So conversations stay shallow. Fun, maybe, but not deep. You can talk about life, purpose, what actually matters when everything else falls away. That intellectual and emotional depth creates curiosity that looks a lot like attraction. Your wrinkles aren't flaws. They're proof you've been in the arena. Your failures aren't weaknesses. They're evidence you took risks. Your quiet confidence isn't boring. It's earned. Society tells you aging is decline. I'm telling you aging is accumulation. You're not losing youth. You're gaining depth. And she recognizes that instantly. And here's the paradox that changes everything. Most men never understand this. When she smiles and you respond with calm acknowledgement rather than desperate gratitude, it completely shifts the dynamic. Younger men become immediately needy. They see her smile as validation they've been desperately seeking. So they chase, they prove, they seek her approval. You're fine either way. You'd enjoy her company, but you don't require it for your happiness. That independence becomes magnetic. Because we want what doesn't need us, we pursue what isn't chasing us. Seneca wrote that the greatest wealth is poverty of desires. When you don't desperately need female attention, you become wealthy in the way that matters most. And she recognizes that instantly. Look, I'm not saying play games or pretend you're not interested. I'm saying build a life so fulfilling that her interest becomes a pleasant addition, not a desperate necessity. That's the difference between attractive and needy. So now you understand why she smiles. But understanding means nothing if you don't know what to do next. The biggest mistake isn't that you're not attractive. It's that you are attractive, but you've convinced yourself you're not. When you immediately think, she's just being friendly, you're projecting your insecurity onto her behavior. You're making her actions about your fears rather than her intentions. So you sabotage yourself before anything even begins. You have permission to be attractive. You have permission to be desired. You have permission to acknowledge interest when it's offered. Not every smile is an invitation, but when it lingers, when it reaches her eyes, when there's that extra moment, trust it. Stop talking yourself out of possibilities before they even begin. Here's exactly what to do, and it's simpler than you think. Imagine the moment frame by frame. She smiles. Eye contact happens. Hold the gaze for 1 second longer than comfortable. Not in a creepy way, in a confident way. Don't just stare. Respond. Smile back. Not with desperate eagerness, but genuine warmth. And sometimes, if the context allows, simply say hello. Start a conversation. Ask a question. Confidence isn't about having the right words. It's about not being afraid of the wrong ones. Smile back. Hold her gaze with calm presence. And if the moment feels right, if the context allows it, if you're not overthinking it, just say hello and see where it goes. Because the worst thing that happens is you had a pleasant human interaction, and that's already more than most men will experience today. But here's the truth that ties everything together. None of these approaches matter if you're using them to fill a void in your life. Most men focus on attraction techniques because they have nothing else going on, so they come across as desperate no matter how smooth the technique. But when you're genuinely invested in your own development, when you're building something meaningful, when you're living with purpose, her smile becomes a pleasant moment in an already fulfilling life, not validation you've been desperately seeking. Attraction isn't the goal. A compelling life is the goal. Attraction is just the byproduct. Epictetus taught that freedom is won by disregarding things beyond our control. You cannot control whether she smiles, but you can control whether you're living a life worthy of that smile. Stop trying to become attractive and just become yourself. The version that's done the work, faced the fears, built something meaningful. That version? It's magnetic. And you don't have to chase anything because you've already caught the thing that matters most, yourself. So let's bring this full circle because everything I've told you means nothing without this final piece. Everything changes when you realize this one thing. When a younger woman smiles at you, she's responding to your energy, testing your awareness, attracted to your stability, curious about your depth. But none of that matters if you don't act. The real challenge isn't that you're not attractive. The challenge is that you are attractive, but you've convinced yourself you're not. So you let moments pass. Opportunities dissolve. Connections end before they're born. But it doesn't have to be this way. The only failure is the opportunity you were too afraid to explore. Here's what I want you to do the next time it happens. First, notice it. Be present. Then, acknowledge it. Hold her gaze. Smile back. And if appropriate, engage. Say hello. Start a conversation. And regardless of outcome, you showed up. You were present. You were confident enough to acknowledge interest when offered. This isn't about getting dates. It's not about validating your ego. This is about living fully, about being present enough to recognize life's small invitations, about being secure enough to engage with possibility rather than retreating into safety. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the best response to those who would diminish us is to be unlike them. The best response to a culture that tells you you're past your prime is to live so fully that your presence itself becomes the counter-argument. You're not too old. You've just been thinking too small. Look, I know this challenges the stories you've been telling yourself. That's the point. Growth happens when we question our own narratives. You have value. You have depth. You have presence. But younger women recognize these qualities even when you've forgotten they exist in you. So stop leaving opportunities on the table. Stop convincing yourself you're invisible. Stop making decisions out of fear. If this opened your eyes to signals you've been missing, subscribe to Inside Her Psychology right now. We're diving deep into attraction psychology, mature masculinity, and showing up confidently in a world trying to convince you you're irrelevant. Drop a comment below. Have you noticed younger women smiling at you? What stopped you from acting on it? Remember this, the question isn't whether you're attractive. The question is whether you're brave enough to acknowledge that you are. Now go. Be present. Notice the moments. And stop apologizing for taking up space in the world. You've earned it.